When we just talk about NFL quarterbacks that, we talk about Michael Vick as being the one that helped revolutionize the game, revolutionize the position in the 21st century. And here's the thing. While it is true that Michael Vick helped revolutionize scouting, Randall Cunningham's really the one that changed the game for quarterback. Hear me out. Fasten your seatbelts for the realest Eagles and Sixers YouTuber! One who plays no clickbait and gets to the point! The myth, the legend, Nicky Steves! Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. I'm simply statue things they slate, dropping unrealistic man. 2K takes for the kick. Even though cats like that get views closer to the millie, never hear me preach, look on to Philly. Before you watch the Eagles all the way through the early 22, authentic talk, forget what others do. Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. The 24/7, 365 way. Sports content for the reals that feel the day. Because when we're thinking about it, I'm just sitting around thinking about football a little bit. And I was thinking about it, a lot of people have pointed to the fact that Randall Cunningham is the original dual threat quarterback. He's been called the OG dual threat quarterback. And when you think about it, it's true. Before Michael Vick, there was Randall Cunningham. He was the guy that was that dual threat that could run, pass. He could maintain himself in the pocket. He was that highlight reel player, played similar to Michael Vick in the 80s and the 90s before Vick became a star. Now, granted, it's true that Michael Vick's success might revolutionize the way quarterbacks were scouted, which I feel that's in part because even after Cunningham, some scouts were kind of thinking that, okay, Randall Cunningham's just a one-off. They thought maybe that Cunningham style play was just a one-time deal, that it wasn't going to be duplicated. Then when they saw Vick duplicating it, they realized, okay, this is a style that isn't just a one-off that just worked for one guy. This is a style that can work at this level, not just for Randall Cunningham, but now when they saw Michael Vick doing it, they're like, okay, this actually does work consistently. So I feel like that's the reason, part of the reason why Vick is credited as the guy who changed scouting, because I think once scouts saw a second quarterback similar to Cunningham, they realized, okay, that wasn't just a one-off in terms of quarterbacks that could be that dual threat. But let's take a look at it. When it comes to Randall Cunningham, first, he was the first guy that did it. We look at Randall Cunningham's career, he had over 4,000 rushing yards and 35 rushing touchdowns back during the 80s into the 90s. This was an era, remember, where some of the star quarterbacks in the league were the traditional pocket passers like Dan Marino, Joe Montana, Jim Kelly. Of course, those guys. Don't forget Troy Aikman as well in the 90s. These guys were considered the traditional quarterbacks. You had Steve Young, who showed flashes of that mobile quarterback, but he was considered more of a traditional he was more of a pocket guy that could move a little bit. But Randall Cunningham was remembered as the OG of those type of quarterbacks because he did it in an era where there were still so many pocket passers. Phil Simms as well for the Giants. I mean, so many guys. Mark Ripken for Washington. So many of these guys were just traditional pocket passers. You didn't really see mobile quarterbacks in that era. The closest thing to it was Fran Tarkenton for the Vikings in the 70s. But then you flash forward to the 80s, Randall Cunningham was the first mobile quarterback that caught people's attention, that took the league by storm. And even in his college days, he did it with the UNLV Rebels, who football program was considered a joke. Cunningham's senior year there, his senior year with the UNLV Rebels, 1984 was their best season. And he had himself a phenomenal season. And he's a member of the College Football of Fame. That final season where he was at star at the Rebels convinced the Eagles to take a shot on this guy. And we're going to take a look at some of the highlights and show you that. So let's take a look at it. This video comes from the NFL's throwback page. This is showing highlights from Cunningham. It's about 20 minutes. We'll just skim through it. But here's some of it. Some guys follow along. Remember, this was, like I said, that 80s era of Marino, Montana, Eventually Steve Young in the 90s, Aikman in the 90s, those type of guys, Phil Simms. And here's what Cunningham did during that era.
And the Eagles have won it in overtime.
I would really love to see Randall Cunningham at 23 come back to the NFL today.
He is bouncing around, now takes off to the far side.
With some of the offenses that teams are running now. I mean, I would love to see him in the pistol. I would love to see him in the read option.
Cunningham on second and long throws way downfield.
You take him from that era and you put him as a young man in this era. And no telling what he could do.
Now watch this young man. He gives a little.
And you hear those comments. Longtime historians are saying he would be phenomenal in this era. You saw some of the highlights. Now I'm going to show you some more.
Fake goes out to his left, and he's a right-handed quarterback. He has to turn his body and throw falling away, and throws it a mile. And it's right on target. 2nd and 10 for Philadelphia. Quick is open. Cunningham, 19-yard touchdown pass to Quick. Going deep for Jackson. Touchdown, Philadelphia.
It became very apparent to us almost immediately that Randall was going to be fun to watch.
Cunningham gets 5 bucks. And this is what the Redskins don't like at all. And Randall Cunningham is now racing for the end zone. One
There you
man
go.
deep, and he's knocked out of bounds. Blitz. Cunningham has gone deep for Mike Quick. He's got him.
So you see some of those highlights. You saw he had arm strength. He could throw the ball, and he was mobile too. You saw the quick moves. Looks very similar to today's quarterbacks. But this was during the 80s when, at the time, it was unheard of for quarterbacks to play that way. And it caught a lot of highlight reels. A lot of Sports Center talk. A lot of announcers were just in awe of the style of play of Cunningham. I mean, you still get today's announcers are in awe to some degree, but the announcers during the Cunningham era could not believe what they were seeing. It was like they were seeing Houdini. They couldn't believe what was happening before their eyes. Cunningham was that dude. I'll tell you, man, that's why I say Cunningham revolutionized the game of football, because before Michael Vick, yes, even before Michael Vick, and then before Cam Newton, Russell Wilson to some degree, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, so on and so forth. Before those guys, Randall Cunningham was that guy. And there was even a video made about 5 years ago by a popular football YouTuber called KTO. He uploaded a video called Meet the Original Michael Vick. And it was about Cunningham. And there's actually a quote he put in there from Michael Vick later in the video. I'm going to play that part right there. I'll put the link to this video in the comments if you guys want to see it. So here we go. I'm going to share that part with you guys as well, to even catch Michael Vick's take on Cunningham.
Most athletically gifted quarterback we have ever seen in the NFL. But Randall Cunningham makes a pretty good case. Even when asked the question, who's faster out of the two? Vick responded on Instagram saying, quote, "This is a good one. RC had great inline speed. I'll say me in the 40, but Randall in the 100.
So you heard that right there. Michael Vick's even acknowledging that Randall Cunningham was a great scrambler. He says that in a 100-yard dash, Cunningham could beat him, that he accelerated, his speed accelerated. And when you think about it, another thing you got to think about, Randall Cunningham's style of play, it had a big influence on Michael Vick. You know that just when you look at Cunningham's career, you look at the way he played, he had an influence on Michael Vick. Now, Michael Vick had the influence on a lot of today's quarterbacks that didn't see Cunningham in his peak. But when you look at it, the evolution of the mobile quarterback, it started with Randall Cunningham. It took years for it to catch on as a regular, but remember, Randall Cunningham started that, which is why I credit him as the guy who helped change the quarterback position in the game of football. He was the first to do it on a main scale here in the and did it on the NFL scale. Without Cunningham, there's probably no Michael Vick. So I'll come out and say Randall Cunningham was the guy that changed the quarterback position. Even though it took years for it to become a thing, it all started with Cunningham when you look back at it historically. So That's where I lead that stance that Randall Cunningham changed it. He's the first quarterback with over 4,000 yards running for his career. He was the first quarterback that you saw making those Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson type of plays. And throughout his career, in an era of the pocket passer, Cunningham finished with a total of 207 passing touchdowns, over 4,000 career yards, close to 5,000 career rushing yards, and 484 35 rushing touchdowns. Excuse me. So it was, So he finished with a total of 207 career passing touchdowns and a total of 35 rushing touchdowns. Then, that right there was the first real mobile quarterback that paved the way for the rest of these guys. So that's where I stand, saying that Randall Cunningham changed the game of football. So I'll leave it at that. Everyone that watched, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. And with that, and also I did put the whole highlights in the comments as well. If you want to see more highlights of Cunningham from his career, you can check that out. I put the KTO video with the Michael Vick reference in the comments as well. Both links are down there if you guys want to check them out. So shout out to NFL Throwback, KTO, longtime football content creator, for the videos. And with that being said, enjoy the rest of your day. It's your boy Nicky Steve signing off, and I'll catch you next time.